Hello, this is Kathleen Forsyth. Welcome everyone to the TMC and Gorilla Expense demonstration that we're going to be doing for you today. And I want to welcome my co-presenters, Jim Kaltzis. Hello, Jim.
Hey, Kathleen, good morning. Thank you for the introduction, I appreciate it. So good morning, everyone. We appreciate you taking the time to join us. This is Jim Kaltzis from TMC, and today's presentation is from Gorilla Expense. It's a partner we've worked with for a while now and have many clients benefiting from their services. And really, Gorilla Expense, they take the pain out of expense reporting. We've got a simple application, really provides 100% visibility into your T&E spending and offers you savings through automation and expense management. So we hope you'll find the time spent today valuable and that you'll consider Gorilla Expense moving forward for your expense needs. So thank you again for your time. Back to you, Kathleen.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much. And I'd like to take this moment as well to introduce my co-presenter from Gorilla Expense. Mahesh, can you say hello?
Hello everyone. Thank you, Kathleen. This is Mahesh.
Yes. Thank you, Mahesh. So I will be starting the presentation and Mahesh will be coming in a moment. So let's get this rolling. So today what we're going to do is we're going to look at a few different things. We're going to talk a little bit about who we are at Gorilla Expense. I want to talk a little bit about the stakeholders, who it is that wants expense management and what pain that they're experiencing that makes them want expense management. We'll go into a solution overview. We'll look at the application, and if you can hold your questions until the answer or put them into until the end, or put them into the question box, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. Let's talk a little bit about who Gorilla Expense is. We are very experienced in the T&E expense reporting space, and we understand what works and what doesn't. Just as a small story, the way the company was founded and the origin of the name Gorilla Expense is one of our founders was actually at a gorilla preserve and was so amazed at how much power and ability they brought to what it was that they were doing that he decided to name the company after that, and that's the origin of the word Gorilla Expense. So we understand, we've been in business for quite some while, for about 10 years, and we understand what works and what doesn't. We have thousands of users around the world in the market, and our users are all the time keeping us on our toes to make sure that we're doing getting the most recent and best facilities into the product that we can. Our mission is to become the de facto spend management solution that provides panoramic visibility. And that's kind of a big mouthful, and I'll show you what I mean by it in a slide or two. And finally, we're very proud of how we've been recognized in the industry. We've been recognized by Microsoft in their demo showcase forum. Wireless Technology Forum recognized us as a 2015 top innovator. And most recently, the CIO Review magazine has named us one of the most promising Microsoft Dynamics solution providers. And we're very proud of that designation. We're proud of all of them, actually. The reason I'm showing you this slide is to reinforce how many customers we have, the types of customers we have. Obviously, this isn't how many, the types of customers we have around the world. And the thing about Gorilla Expense and expense management in general is it's an application that most companies need. Any company that has travelers on the road needs expense management. And so you can see that we have a variety of companies and a variety of geographies around the world. I want to talk a little bit about how we differentiate ourselves in the market. From an economic point of view, we are more economical to own. One of the things that the founders were very convinced about was when they put together the company is that we would come out to the company and serve the market in an economical way as well as an excellent technology way. The other thing that we don't do that some of our competitors do is we don't charge any overconsumption fees for our product. We believe that one size does not fit all, and so our solution is highly configurable to your specific needs. And we make sure that we listen to you as we're putting together the solution and working with you to make sure that we've got everything configured so that you can have the implementation that serves your needs. We're proud of our training. We provide it for all users. and it's not generic. So it's not a go out and listen to some kind of a generic training. We actually put together a training based on your system and using your data, and it's not generic. And when it comes to support, I think that I will just let Ms. Haddad say everything for us. Every time we ask for a change or question, whether small or big, I usually have the answer within 24 hours, if not within the hour. And that is very impressive. And that was from Hilda Haddad. And she was the controller, is the controller at Monrovia, and that was a Concur switchover. And finally, we are very well known for our integration into the ERP and payroll integration. We specialize in customized integrations with the various ERPs, and you're actually going to get a chance to look at that today. So where else do we want to go right now? I want to talk about who it is that uses expense management, what I call the stakeholders. And the first of those is finance. And so what is the pain that finance is experiencing, and how is it that it gets solved by our solution? So the pain they're facing is that they want to have an improved visibility over spend. I know one time I was working for a company and everything we were doing was manually. And it was so hard for the managers to understand if there was excess spending or where they could start to put rules in place, because everything was done manually. So that's something that finance is very interested in seeing. They want to see improved visibility over spend. And second, almost as important, is that we get quicker reimbursement of the employee expenses. And it's what we call an emotive issue. It's emotional for the accounting team, it's emotional for management, it's emotional for the people who are waiting to get their reimbursements. So those top two things are what's preoccupying the finance team. Sales and management have some other pains that they're looking at. They're sick of doing things manually. They're sick of not being able to automate a solution. They're sick of manual reviews, the processing errors. They want to see slow reimbursement go to fast reimbursement, and they want to be able to do partial reimbursements when an expense report comes to. And another thing that's really important is the ability to do reporting. So we've done some in-depth reporting in our product, and one of our clients who came to us had just been through a compliance audit from their governmental body, and it was very painful for them because it was all manual, and they had it with that. They said, that's it, we're never going to do this again. And they came to us so that they could have an audit trail for everything that happens in the product, and that's one of the things that we do offer. The accounting team is interested in eliminating paperwork, eliminating manual data entry, and having no errors. And the way that they know that they can do that is if everything is properly entered at the front end in the expense solution itself. So finally, we talk about our solution overview, and this is when I invite my, oh, sorry, I had another slide here that I needed to talk about. So the key points that we look at in our solution set is we want to make sure that we've addressed manual processes, eliminated Excel, and eliminated the error-prone and time-consuming efforts on the part of all the teams, the management, the finance, and the accounting team. We want to make sure that the expense reimbursements are being managed properly and that there's an automated integration with GP. Every solution out there on the market should have mobile phones to track receipts and do an automatic upload. It should be easy to use and intuitive. It's user-friendly, and that's one of the things that we've concentrated on a lot with our system. There should be an automated integration with GP, with NAV, with SL, and with Dynamics 365. And we should have analytics reporting and credit card reconciliation. I want to turn the controls over to my coworker Mahesh, who's going to go into this solution diagram that talks a little bit about how it is that our solution fits together in one 10,000-foot view, and then he's going to roll into actually showing the solution itself. So Mahesh, would you like to take over the controls?
Yeah, sure, Kathleen. Thank you so much for the introduction part. And okay, so let me just get the controls and share my screen. Okay, I hope you can see the screen, Kathleen. Yeah.
I can see the screen. Thank you, Mahesh. I'm going to go on mute,
Okay.
but I'll be right here.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much again. And okay, so hello everyone. This is Mahesh. I'm one of the global sales manager at Gorilla Expense, and I'll be, walking you through with the demo today, and starting with this slide, which is the spider diagram of our solution itself. So let's get started. So within the dotted box is the Gorilla Expense solution. So you can submit your expenses through web. We support multiple web browsers. You can do expenses both on Android as well as iOS. We can also pull in corporate credit card data into the application. We work with Amex, MasterCard, and Visa. And finally, we also have an email feature. So if you have an email in your inbox, which is the receipt, for example, certain merchants like Expedia or hotels.com, they send you an email once you do the booking with them. So ideally, if you're not on a solution, you'll print that email and attach that paper to an expense report. But in our case, you just have to forward that email to specific email address into Gorilla Expense environment, that is receipts@gorillaexpense.com, and the application will create that transaction for you. So application will convert the body of the email into PDF and keep it in the email section of the application for users to attach that PDF as a receipt, and they can complete the transaction there and there itself. So these email expenses and the corporate credit card expenses are also available on the mobile application. So using the Gorilla Expense mobile application, you can submit the entire expense report from the phone without having to get in front of the computer. Well, users can also submit their expenses from the web. It's user preference. And within the web application, all the alerts are electronic. So what happens once users submit the expense report, it goes to the manager. And at the same time, manager will receive an email saying, hey, the employee has submitted an expense. So he will just go ahead whether he approves or rejects the expense. The similar kind of information will be sent back to employee about the approval or rejection of the expense report. You can also set up multiple levels of approvals in the system. So you can have multiple levels of approval for specific expense reports, maybe manager 1, manager 2, by the time it reaches to the accounting team. So that's the approvals workflow. There is also a policy model which you can set, receipts and amount-based policies, which for different expense types that can also be configured in the system. You can also route an expense report to someone else, to a different manager altogether. So for an example, the sales manager thinks that this is not supposed to be approved by him or her, then he or she can just redirect it to someone else. That's the routing feature. There is also reporting and analytics module to slice and dice T&D data with, where you can go and query in all the expense reports, all the expense data, and you can download PDFs with all the expense reports data, with all the receipts available there and there itself. We also integrate with third-party systems like payroll. And once all the expense data is compiled, assembled, and approved at multiple levels, then using the Gorilla Expense proprietary integration application, we post all that data into the accounting system or ERP. So just for example, for today's webinar, I'm going to show the integration with Dynamics Business Central. But as Kathleen mentioned, we do integrate with various and different accounting systems and ERPs as well, including Dynamics Suites. Okay, so let's break this demo into multiple sections now that we have an overview of how it all comes together. So let's start with mobile demo first. We're going to create an expense report on the mobile application. We're going to create a few expenses, create a report, get all those expenses into the mobile application, into a report, and then we will submit that report from the mobile application. We're going to approve that report on the web application just to see how it looks like, how our application looks like on the web. And once it gets approved, we will integrate that into Business Central 365. So just give me a second. Let me pull my iPhone screen up. Okay, so this is how our application looks on iPhone. This is the home page once you sign into the application. So the first one that you see on the screen is reports. So reports is where you create create one single report or two single reports. Second one is expenses. Expenses is where you create all single line item expenses. Then we have receipt box. So receipt box is a better way to store and manage your receipts in Gorilla Expense. So this feature allows you to keep all your receipts in one place and you can sync them across all the devices. So it's just like having a Dropbox application within the Gorilla Expense. And as you can see, this is where you can store all your receipts before attaching it to an expense line. So if you have a receipt in front of you, so what happens, you typically take a picture of it and it gets stored in your photo gallery or camera roll. Sometimes your photo gallery becomes clutter because you have your other personal photos going in there as well. So, it becomes very difficult for the user to go back and forth and find that particular receipt in the photo gallery. Instead of that, you can have all your receipts in the receipt box and you can find them easily. Apart from that, as you can see, the thumbnails in the receipt box are quite big enough. So just by looking at the receipt, user can make out who the vendor is, what the amount is, and what the date is. Also in the receipt box, we provide receipt scan, which is the add-on service that we provide, which utilizes OCR, which is optical character recognition. So if you have a receipt in front of you, you take a picture of it, application will scan the receipt and it will complete that transaction for the user. So, it's pretty quick. So you don't have to spend a lot of time creating your transactions. That's how the OCR works. I'm going to show you how OCR works actually once we start creating few expenses. But that's the functionality of the receipt box. This is very popular feature among our customers. Next is timesheets. Well, that's another product of ours. If you don't have it, you won't see it there. We will disable that for you. Next up is approvals. Approvals is a section for managers. If they want to approve or reject expense reports on the go, then they can do so by clicking on approval section. And finally, we have settings where users can set preferences. So let's click on expenses tab and let's start creating few expenses. So I'm going to click on expenses. And once I click on it, this is the screen I get into. Right at the bottom, you see there are three tiny icons. First one is mobile, second one is bank, and third one is email. So the mobile tab where I'll do all my out-of-pocket expenses, where any payment or any expenses that has been done using cash or personal card, which is not a corporate card, it has to be created under mobile section. For example, if you're having a cup of coffee at Starbucks and making a payment through cash or personal card, then you'll create that transaction under the mobile section. Moving on to bank. So bank has all my corporate credit card expenses. This is the section where all the credit card data will show up. As you can see, I have Amex data with me today, but this is how the credit card transactions looks like. Moving on to email. So email has any pending email expenses. So there was an email in my inbox, which was the hotel reservation made at Marriott. Being a registered user into Gorilla Expense, what I did was, I just forwarded that email from my inbox into the application, and the application has converted the body of the email into PDF. I can quickly take a look at this PDF. So as you can see, this was the hotel reservation made at Marriott from October 14th to October 19th, and the amount was $1,045. So now I can attach this PDF as a receipt to a particular transaction, and as well as I can also create a transaction out of this, just by filling out a few information on the transaction level. So either way, I can do this. I can complete the transaction, or I can attach a receipt. Okay, so let's get back on the home page and start creating few expenses now. So I'm gonna hit receipt box first. Let's create first expense using OCR. So click on receipt box. Right on the top, you see options, and then it gives me option to add receipt. So I'm gonna click on it, and then it gives me further option like camera, photo gallery. So I'm gonna click on camera, and I have a receipt in front of me. So just give me a second. Okay, so I clicked on the receipt, and I'll say use photo. And now it's getting scanned. It takes few seconds to scan, sometimes a minute, depending upon the speed of the internet and the quality of the receipt. But the way it works is I can take a picture of a receipt that is there in front of me. I'll upload this receipt and the application will scan the receipt at the backend, and it will extract as much data as possible from the receipt, and it will complete that transaction for me. It might not be entirely complete. I might have to pick the expense type or make any fixes if needed, but the most part it will show as task complete. So I do have a same receipt scanned. So let's take the status of it. And at the bottom, if you notice, it says scan successful, and it has picked up all the information from the receipt like date, amount, as well as vendor. All I have to do is that click on options, which is on the top right hand side, and then it asks me, would you like to attach to new expense or existing expense? So let's say attach it to new expense, and then if you notice, it has picked up all the information, and we also have receipt which is attached. So it has picked up the date, it has picked up the amount, and it has picked up the vendor as well. I just have to pick the expense type here. So let me click on expense type. So this was the meals expense. So I'm going to pick expense type as meals. And yeah, there are a couple of cost categories which are enabled at the user profile, like department and customer. I click on department. So I'm from the sales department. So I'm going to click sales. But this list is completely configurable based on your requirement. And of course, so as the customer. So this is also completely configurable based on your requirement. Apart from that, whatever fields that you see on the screen are completely configurable. Also, we can relabel those fields like department, customer, anything as per your requirement as well. At the bottom, if you come down, if you scroll down, country, state, and city, so all of this you can make it as default as well. So user don't have to pick it up every time they create transaction. So all the common fields you can make it as default. And at the bottom you have comment section. So if you have any comments or description or notes, you have option to do that as well. So the transaction looks good to me. We have receipt, everything is complete. Right on the top, you see there's a save button. So let's go ahead and save it. And this particular expense, it says uploaded. That means it is ready to be pulled into the report. Well, so now, okay, let's go back to receipt box and come out of the receipt box on the home page. Well, we have created one expense, which is using OCR. So if I hit expenses tab now, this particular expense will show up here under the mobile section because this was the out-of-pocket expense. Okay, so let's create one more expense, and this time we'll just do it quickly manually. We'll not use OCR, so that's another way of creating expenses as well. So let's click on options, and then it gives me option to create report. Okay, so let me quickly change the date. So just for example, I'm doing all the expenses from October 2019. Oops, okay, date can be any, okay. And let's hit department of sales. And I'm gonna pick a different expense type now. So let's pick something common expense type, which is mileage. And okay, so as soon as I pick different, the expense type as mileage, if you notice the page has changed to show me the number of miles field as well as the rate per mile has been populated in there, which is 0.58 as per IRS. So let's click on enter miles, and now I can enter the distance traveled manually, or I can take the help of Google Maps to do the math for me. And for that, I'm gonna click calculate miles. And then I have to choose origin point as well as destination. So let me pick something like Duluth to Atlanta. Click on done, click on save. Okay, and then it has given me the approximate miles, as you can see here. I can also add the additional destination by clicking on the plus button right here, as it supports multi-destination as well. Let's keep it simple, Duluth to Atlanta, click on done, click on save. And if you notice, it has given me the converted amount. And at the bottom in the comments section, if you notice, it has picked up the start and end addresses as for reference purposes. So let's save it. Everything looks good. And we also have receipt, which is attached. And the receipt in this case is just gonna be the snapshot of the map. So everything looks good. So let's save this transaction as well and upload it. Well, so we have created two different expenses so far, meals and mileage. So let's create one more, and that we will do it in the bank section. So let's create one more transaction, which is a corporate credit card. Let's open it up and submit, complete it. So all these transactions that you see on the screen has come from the corporate credit card statement. So we just have to remember that we will be having very limited information and there will not be any receipt attached to it because all this data has come from the corporate credit card statement. So the fields like date, the amount, the merchant name, the payment method, which is Amex in this case, and the country, state, and city. So all of this has come from the corporate credit card statement. So these fields will be grayed out on the user profile. You know, user won't be able to do any changes to these fields. Uh, Fields like department, customer, of course, they can pick, or you can make it as default to their profile as well. Apart from that, our application will map specific columns from the statement to the respective fields within the application. So if there is any additional data supplied by the credit card company, maybe in the comments field or something like that, if there's any additional data supplied by the credit card company, then application can configure to read that and it will pre-select the expense type for the user. The most relevant expense type. Suppose in the comment section it says parking fees or something like that, then the application can read that and it will pre-select the most relevant expense type. As you can see, it has picked up fees, but user can still go ahead and change the expense type if he wants to or if there needs to be, but the most part it will show as task complete. So what we have seen is that fields were missing like department and customer. We just pick those up, and then the missing field is receipt. As you can see, there's a camera icon. Since this data has come from the corporate credit card statement, there is no receipt attached to it. But if you want to attach a receipt, you have multiple options as well to do that. So just hit the camera icon and you can see you have these many options through which you can attach a receipt. So you can use camera, take a picture of a receipt that is there in front of you. You can pick up a receipt from photo gallery, receipt box, Dropbox, OneDrive, merge from mobile or merge from email as well. So the last option, which is merge from email, if you click on it, it will take you to the email section. And now if you click any of these PDF, so this PDF will get attached as a receipt to this transaction. Well, so let's not attach a receipt to this particular transaction. I just want to show you what happens if a transaction don't have a receipt. Is it gonna give us a red flag? That's what we will see. So let's go ahead and save this. All right. And this transaction is complete and we uploaded them as well. So we have created 3 different expenses so far and we have uploaded them as well. Now we are going to add them to an expense report. But the process of upload, in the way we saw, it always encourages travelers to complete their expenses as and when they incur and not to wait till the end. So if you're walking out of Starbucks with a receipt that you paid out of pocket, you can just quickly take a picture of it, code the expense type, and you can upload it then and there itself. So you don't have to stuck that receipt in your pocket or lose it somewhere or forget it somewhere, It can just be done immediately. Well, so I'm back on the home page and now I'm gonna click on reports. So let's create a report. So right on the top, there's a create report button. And then I have to fill in few information, like, I have to give a name to this report. So I'm gonna say October 2019 expenses. Then I have to pick report type. So I'm gonna pick corporate, but if you're billing back to a project or customer, you have option to do that as well. And then I have to pick start date and end date. So all the expenses are from October 2019. So I'm gonna say October 1st as the start date and October 31st as the end date. So let's click options, save it. Okay, so we have created a report. So let's open that up. So what you can what you're seeing is that we have created a skeleton report to which now we will add all the transactions which we just uploaded. And to do that, we will do add existing expenses. So the button that you see at the bottom right hand side. So let's click on it. And then by default, it takes me to the mobile section first. So I'm going to click mileage mails. And then under the bank transaction, I have a fees. So let's click on it. And on the top right hand side, you see there's add button. So let's click add. And all the three expenses are showing up here. So it shows the date, the source of the expense, the type of an expense, and the amount. And at the bottom, it will give you a breakdown, what the total was, what is not reimbursable, as it will pay to the corporate credit card, which is Amex, and of course, total reimbursable, which is reimbursable to the employee, of course. So at the bottom left-hand side, you see there's a button that says validate to submit. You must click on it to make sure that all expenses are valid, and then only it presents you with the submit button. So let's go ahead and click submit. Now this particular expense report will be submitted to my manager now. So my manager name is Sam. So Sam will receive an email saying, hey, Mahesh has submitted an expense report for so-and-so trip and so-and-so date, and the report number is GE2906. So every report that gets submitted carries along with a unique report confirmation number. And the email that manager receives, it will also going to have an URL in it for him to click on it and take action. But from traveler standpoint, his work is done. So in a few clicks, we have submitted the entire expense report from the phone without having to get in front of the computer. So another point with the mobile application is that it also operates in offline mode. So if you're sitting on a plane and you got 5 receipts in front of you and you don't have Wi-Fi or any connectivity as such, you can still open up the application, take pictures of the receipts, and you can complete those expenses manually and you can keep them ready to be uploaded. So what we have seen is that it's very simple, very quick to operate, and you can complete expenses even in offline mode, where you can just code the expenses, take pictures of the receipts, and yeah, so that's another option as well. So let's move to the next section where we are going to approve this expense report as Sam, who's the approving manager, and that we are going to do from the web application. So that we can also take a look at how our web application looks like. Just give me a second. Okay, so this is the login page. This is how our application looks on web. So I'm gonna log into this web application as Sam, who's my approving manager. So now let's log in as Sam. And our purpose here is to see how it looks like in front of the manager's dashboard. Well, so this is the dashboard. So this is how it typically looks like when an employee or manager logs in. So Sam logs in, he says, hello, Sam. And then he'll be presented the dashboard where expense report section are broken into 2 subsections, where one where Sam is working on, and then below expense report submitted to Sam for approval by his employees. So let's open the one that we just submitted, which is 2906, and review that as a manager. Well, once I open that, this is the one, the approvals workflow right on the top. As you can see, it says submitted to manager Sam Robinson, but not approved yet. Exactly below that, there's a heads up to manager saying that this report has potential duplicates and please check the violation column under the expenses section. So our application catches potential duplicates. That means if the same receipt is attached multiple times, our application will flag it as potential duplicate. So manager can check if the same receipt is attached number of times, then he can make necessary or take necessary actions. If you scroll down a bit, there are a couple of tabs. Of course, manager can approve an expense report, he can reject. Towards the right hand side, as you can see, there's a redirect expense report button. So I can redirect an expense report to other managers in the system if I think this is supposed to be approved by someone else, and hit redirect. Then there's a PDF preview feature as well. So PDF preview feature, so this actually generates a very handy PDF document which has a summary table followed by subsequent pages that have receipts with them. So every page will have single receipt of that respective line item along with expense type and date mentioned on it. So very handy PDF document. Our customers like this feature because it also serves as a very handy, also as a very convenient backup option for them. So that's the PDF preview. Then we also have Audit Trails. Audit Trail just gives the user a running summary, what's been going on with these expense reports, along with the date and timestamp, of course. So it captures all the changes made to an expense report, like it shows when I submitted the expense report, when my manager approved it, when the accounting approved it, of course, along with the date and timestamp. So this is very compliance and audit centric, and you can also download it as Excel PDF as well as Word document. So let's scroll down under the transaction section. And the first column that you see is the violation. So the first flag says potential duplicates, and the second flag, it also has a potential duplicate. So if you click any of these flags, it will probably, give you, it will probably open up all the instances when it says the same receipt was attached to number of expense reports. So basically, what you can do is that as a manager, you can open the previous report, open the receipt, and compare if there's with this particular receipt, if the both receipts are just the same or not. If they are, of course, they will be. You can just remove particular transaction from this report. All of that editing you can do it, of course, as a manager. The third column is receipts. So remember, for the bank transaction, we did not attach any receipt. That's where it says none, so there is no receipt. But the rest two transactions have the receipts. So as a manager, you can click on the receipt link and view that particular receipt, and also review all the details of that particular transaction showing towards the left-hand side. You can hit the next arrow button to see the next receipt and the transaction, of course. And now if you think that any editing that you want to do as a manager, of course you can do that by clicking on edit report feature. Once you click edit report, as a manager, of course, you get an additional access to additional action items. As you can see under the action items, there's a remove button, which is a garbage button. So of course you can click that and you can remove particular transaction from this report if you want to. There's an edit button. You can click on edit and you can probably change the date, change the amount, change the expense type, whatever changes that you want to do, you can do that. We also have copy feature. If you want, if the same expense is getting repeated again and again, then of course with the copy feature you can copy and repeat the transaction itself. Then we also have split feature. So imagine the situation where marketing and sales team have come up together and given a client meal, and you wanted this expense to be distributed between marketing and sales team. Then using the split feature, you can split the expenses between two departments itself. So those are the action items. So I'm not gonna do any editing for this particular expense report. So I'm just gonna go ahead and approve this. So let's hit back and click on approve. So let's approve this expense report. Okay, and as you can see right on the top, there's approvals workflow, and it says it has turned green and it says manager approved. And the status is also showing as manager approved. So now that this report is approved, will bring us to the final step of the process, which is now sending this report to Business Central 365 using the Gorilla Expense integration application, which is hosted on a remote desktop. So just give me a second. Let me go in there. So this is the Gorilla Expense proprietary integration application, and I'm going to log into this application as admin. And admin will typically be accounting, finance, or AP. So this application is not accessible to employee or departmental manager, because this is completely an accounting and AP function. And once I log into the application, all I have to do is that click on File, click on Export Expenses, and it is going to give me the list of expense reports, and all of those are going to be manager approved reports. So only manager approved reports can be pushed into the application. So let me scroll down all the way to the bottom and click on the one which we just approved, change the status, and I'll just click AP approved and hit the button that says send to NAV or Business Central and update the status. So process-wise, at the end of the week, end of the 2 week, or end of the month, as the AP manager, you can come to this page, you can click on select all of these reports, and with the click of a button, you can send everything to Business Central. So you don't have to manually key anything into Business Central or ERP. It just eliminates a lot of time you spend keying the data into Business Central. Another option we provide with the integration application is that we also have the auto export or auto send, where we can schedule the integration application to automatically push all manager approved reports into Business Central or ERP at a scheduled time and a day. So if you think maybe Friday at 4 p.m. you want to push all manager approved reports into Business Central, then you don't have to come in here and push this button. So that's an additional option as well. So as you can see, this particular expense report has turned green. That means we have successfully posted it into the Business Central. So let's go into Business Central and make sure that we have posted it correctly. Okay, so I'm into purchase invoices. I'll scroll down all the way down to the bottom. And if you notice vendor invoice number, it has created two separate invoices, 2906-0 and 2906-1. So 2906-0 is for the corporate credit card, which is Amex, and 2906-1, it is for the employee, which is Mahesh. So let's open the corporate credit card one. So as you can see, the line that we created posted to the desired account just for the Amex. And this is for the employee. And it has two lines, which is, of course, meal, Starbucks. And the other one was mileage. So all the lines we created posted to the desired account. So it has automatically picked my vendor number, and for the corporate credit card expense, it has picked a different vendor number. So the next step within Business Central would be to post this batch, and it will create the payment line to pay the respective vendors, and will post as expenses in the general ledger. So that's the integration part. And if we come back, if you go back to the integration application, you're still seeing this particular expense report in this list, but there's a button at the bottom of the page that says reload. If you click on it, this particular expense report will be disappeared from this list because we have successfully posted it into the Business Central. So that's the integration part. So basically, it has created two separate invoices, one for the corporate credit card, one for the employee. And if you come back to the web application, the status of this particular expense report is still seen as a manager approved. If you refresh this page, the status will now change and it will show me as AP approved. So that's the integration part. So let me quickly tell you a couple of features on the web. So like, as I mentioned, we have impersonate user feature as well. So right now I'm logged in as Sam, and the click of a button, I can become CV, or I can have an access to someone else's dashboard altogether as well. So I'll click impersonate, and now as you can see, now I have logged in as CV. So now I can take care of all CV's expense reports or reports which are pending for approval, and I can take care of those. And with a click of a button, which is revert identity, I can become Sam again. So this is helpful for CFOs and CEOs who got personal assistants to take care on behalf of them. It says hello Sam now. And as I mentioned, we also have analytics and reporting modules. So under the analytics, I'll click on reports. So we provide a canned list of reports within the application. So we provide around 45 to 50 reports to slice T&D data with. And as you can see under the standard reports, we have report by country, report by employee and AP approved status, report by expense type, report by vendor, payment method. Besides that, companies who has corporate credit cards, we provide unsubmitted bank transactions report, which makes it very easy to reconcile corporate credit card statement. So this particular report would tell AP manager what pending or missing corporate credit card transactions are. So instead of having to sit through 70 or 100 page credit card statement and the missing transactions, this report would tell you what the missing transactions are, who they belong to, which date they came in, and what the amount was. So very helpful report. Apart from that, aggregate spend reporting, we have reports with cost allocation, expense reports, reporting for policy violation, reports of course, reports of customer, project related, business unit, and department related reports as well. Yeah, so with that, I'm pretty much done showing all the features from mobile as well as web application, including integration with Business Central. So with that, let me hand over the controls back to my colleague, Kathleen. Just give me a second. Hey, Kathleen, are you there?
Hi, yes I am. Thank you very much. And I appreciate you doing that presentation. I want to thank everyone for attending. I wanted to see if there were any questions that anyone has, and if there are, I will unmute you. If you could raise your hand, and then I will unmute you if you have a question. It looks like there is a question, but you're not connected to audio. Oh, that's under the question. So I don't see any questions at this time. Chad, do you have a question? Let me unmute you and ask you. Chad, do you have a question? Okay. So thank you everyone for attending today. I appreciate all of that. Thank you, Jim, and thank you to TMC for hosting us today for this presentation. If you have any questions, please refer to Jim. He will be able to answer any questions that you may have, or if not, be in touch with us and we can help out with any of those questions. I want to thank everyone for attending today and wish you all a wonderful weekend almost. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Mahesh. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you all. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jim.
Welcome. Bye-bye.